Look at this jar. That's swamp water out of a stagnant backwater. Dead leaves in it, a film on top, and it smells like a wet basement. Now look at this one. Same swamp, same afternoon. I ran it through 3 things off the forest floor that cost nothing and took 10 minutes to gather. Drink it right there, and you can still end up flat on your back for a week. Clear water and clean water are 2 different animals. Those 3 get you the first one. A 4th thing gets you the second, and nobody teaches it. So let's put the 3 on the table right now, because there's no mystery to them and no reason to make you wait. Sand, charcoal, sphagnum moss. That's it. Sand off a creek bank, charcoal out of last night's fire, and a handful of bog moss out of the low wet ground. Stack those 3 in a container with a hole in the bottom. Pour swamp water in the top, and what comes out the bottom looks like the jar in my right hand. And the 4th thing is fire. Not a plant, not a mineral, nothing you gather. You build it. And every bit of what the first 3 do is decoration until the fire does its part. Stay with me, because the reason why is the whole point of this. Here's what's actually swimming around in that dark jar. Giardia, Cryptosporidium, E. coli, Campylobacter. Those are the 4 that put people in the hospital in this country every summer. And every one of them comes out of the same place. The gut of an animal that walked through the water upstream or died in it. A deer, a raccoon, a cow, a beaver, beavers especially. Giardia is so common in beaver ponds that the illness picked up a nickname from it, and folks call it beaver fever to this day. And that stagnant water in the low ground, the water with no current, and a lot of leaf litter, and a lot of animals coming down to drink, that's about the best home a parasite could ask for. Now here's the part that fools people. Not one of those 4 makes water look dirty. Giardia cysts run somewhere around 8 to 12 microns across. Cryptosporidium is smaller than that. You could put 10,000 of them in a drop of water, and the drop would still be clear as a window pane. Whatever your eye is telling you about a jar of water, your eye is only reading mud and leaf stain. It has never once been able to see the thing that would actually hurt you. And that's exactly why the expensive answer struggles out here too. Take a hollow fiber filter, the kind that runs anywhere from $40 to $300 at the camping store. It's a bundle of tubes with holes in the wall so small that a bacterium physically cannot fit through. Now, that difference between clear water and clean water is exactly the kind of thing that used to get handed down out loud from one pair of hands to the next and never written anywhere at all. When the telling stopped, it went quiet. It's written down now, plain, in a book called The Native American Way. The backyard plants and how they were used, the wild foods and when to gather them, the fire and water and shelter skills, and the old traditional recipes, all in one place. Skills like this one that cost you a morning and nothing else, instead of a shelf full of gear at the camping store that quits the day the batteries do. Now go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera, the same one you use to take pictures. Point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up. Give it a tap, and it will take you straight to the book. And if you're watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Take your time. There is no rush at all. I'll wait right here. All right. Back to that store filter, because there are 2 things wrong with it in a swamp, and they're both worth knowing. The first one is mud. Silt and leaf particles pack into those tiny holes within a few quarts of dirty water, and the flow slows to a dribble You end up standing there back flushing a $200 tool with a syringe while the mosquitoes eat you alive. The second one is bigger. The CDC says straight out that a filter with an absolute pore size of 0.3 micron or smaller will remove bacteria and parasites, but not viruses. Viruses are smaller than the holes. So the filter hanging in that store handles 2 of the 3 problems, and the third one walks right through. Hold on to that. It comes back at the end, and it's the reason a free method beats a $300 one. Thing number 1, sand. Sand is a mechanical strainer, and nothing more romantic than that. Water going down through packed sand has to travel a long, crooked path around a few million grains, and the particles it's carrying get caught in the corners and left behind. That's it. That's the whole trick. What matters is the order you stack it. Coarse on top, fine on the bottom. Small gravel and pea stone at the top to catch the leaves and the twigs. Then coarse sand under that. Then the finest sand you can find at the very bottom. If you put fine sand on top, it seals over in about a minute and nothing moves. Get your sand from a creek bank or a sandbar, not from a bag in the garage, and wash it first. Take a couple handfuls, put them in a pot of water, stir it hard, pour off the muddy water, and do it again until the water you're pouring off runs mostly clear. 4 or 5 rinses, skip that, and the first thing coming out of your filter is the dirt you brought with you. Now, here's the honest part, because there's a lot of nonsense on this subject. Big city waterworks have run slow sand beds for the better part of 200 years, and those beds do knock out an enormous amount of biological contamination. But they do it because a living layer grows across the top of the sand over a period of weeks, and that layer is what does the work. A column you packed 20 minutes ago in the woods has no such layer. It's a strainer. Treat it like a strainer. And if you don't want to build anything at all, there's an older version of this that uses the ground itself. Dig a hole about 3 to 6 feet back from the edge of the swamp or the pond, down below the level of the water, and wait. Water will seep sideways through the soil and fill your hole from the bottom, and it will come in cleaner than what's standing out there, because it just traveled through several feet of packed earth and sand to get to you. Bale that first, fill out and throw it away. It'll be muddy from your own digging. The second fill comes in noticeably clear, and the third clearer still. That's the same principle as the sand column, except the land built it for you, and all you brought was a stick. Same rule applies though. Clearer is not safer. Write that on your hand. Thing number 2, charcoal. And this is the one people get wrong most often, so listen close. Charcoal is not ash. Ash is the gray powder left at the end, and ash does nothing for you here. Charcoal is the black chunks, the pieces of wood that burned hot without enough air to finish burning, and they still hold the shape and the grain of the wood they came from. You make it on purpose like this. Burn a good hardwood fire down to coals, oak, or hickory if you have it. When you've got a bed of glowing chunks, smother the fire with dirt or drop a pot over it and cut off the air. Let it go cold. What you dig out is charcoal. Break it up small, about the size of a pea, and rinse the dust off it before it goes in the column, or your first jar comes out looking like ink. What charcoal does is different from what sand does. Sand catches things. Charcoal grabs things chemically onto its surface. The insides of those black chunks are riddled with pores, so a small handful carries an enormous amount of surface area and dissolved organic compounds stick to it as the water goes by. That's why the water that comes out doesn't smell like a wet basement anymore. The swamp smell is dissolved organic material, and the charcoal took it out of the water. This isn't a new idea either. Sailing ships crossing the Atlantic charred the insides of their wooden water casks for exactly this reason. Months at sea, and the charred barrel kept the water drinkable when a plain barrel turned foul. That's not folklore. That's standard maritime practice from the 1800s. But there's a limit to it, and I'd rather you hear it from me than find out the hard way. Campfire charcoal is not activated carbon. Activated carbon is made in a factory, steam treated at high temperature to blow the pore structure wide open, and it's dramatically more effective than what you make in a fire pit. Your charcoal helps with taste, smell, and a portion of the dissolved organics. It is not pulling out pesticides, it is not pulling out heavy metals, and it is absolutely not killing anything alive. Nothing in this column kills anything. Say that out loud a couple times. I'll come back to it. Thing number 3, moss, sphagnum, bog moss, peat moss, whatever your part of the country calls it. It grows in the low, wet ground, in bogs and seeps, and the soggy edges of ponds, in soft mounded carpets. The color runs from pale green to a rusty red, depending on the species and the season, and there are dozens of species, so don't hunt for one exact shade. The test is in your hand. Pick up a clump, squeeze it, and if it wrings out like a wet sponge and springs back when you let go, that's sphagnum. It holds somewhere around 20 times its own dry weight in water, which is a genuinely startling number for a plant, and it's naturally acidic. That combination is why field hospitals went looking for it in the First World War. When the cotton ran short, an Edinburgh surgeon named Charles Cathcart, working with the botanist Isaac Bailey Balfour, pushed sphagnum dressings into service. By 1918, Britain was shipping about 1 million moss dressings a month to hospitals in Europe, Egypt, and the Middle East, gathered out of bogs by women and children on weekend moss drives. Now I want to be careful here, because that's history, not a medical claim. And I'm not telling you moss treats anything. What it earns in this filter is a job, and the job is this. Moss is your strainer layer. A thick pad of it goes above the sand, and another pad goes at the bottom right over the drain hole, and it does 2 things. It catches the coarse floating junk before that junk fouls your sand, and the bottom pad holds your fine sand in place so it doesn't wash straight through the hole into your jar. No sphagnum where you are? Clean grass, pine needles, or a piece of cotton cloth will do the same job. Sphagnum is what the old accounts reach for. Anything that strains without falling apart will get you there. All right, now let's stack it. Your container is anything with straight sides and a hole in the bottom. A plastic bottle cut in half and turned upside down. A hollowed section of log, a coffee can, a bark cone folded and pinned with a thorn, a pant leg tied off at the ankle. It genuinely does not matter, as long as water enters at the top and leaves at the bottom. Layer order, bottom to top. Pad of moss over the hole. Fine sand, 3 or 4 inches. Crushed charcoal, 2 or 3 inches. Coarse sand, 3 or 4 inches. Small gravel, 2 inches. And a last pad of moss on top so the water you pour doesn't dig a crater in your gravel. 2 more things and this part is done. Before you pour, strain your swamp water through a shirt or a bandana to get the leaves and the wiggling things out. And if you have the time, let a bucket of it stand overnight so the heavy sediment settles to the bottom. Then pour the clear part off the top. That one costs you nothing but patience, and it saves your column a lot of grief. Then pour slow. The first jar out will be cloudy and gray from the dust in your materials, and that's normal. Pour it back through. The second one, pour it back through too. By the third pass, that column is running clear, and it'll keep running clear until the top files up, at which point you scrape off the top inch of gravel and moss and keep going. And here's where we come to the part that actually matters. You're now holding a jar of water that looks like it came off a shelf. It's clear. It smells like nothing. It tastes like nothing. And every instinct you have is telling you it's fine. It is not fine. Nothing that happened in that column killed a single living thing. The Giardia cysts are still in there. The cryptosporidium is still in there. The bacteria and the viruses came through untouched because a sand grain doesn't care and a piece of charcoal doesn't care. All you've done is take out the mud and the smell, and in doing that you've removed every single warning sign your body had. That clear jar is more dangerous than the dark one because you'll actually drink it. So, the fourth thing, fire. Boiling is the whole ball game, and the guidance on it is not complicated. The CDC says to bring clear water to a rolling boil for 1 minute. Above 6,500 feet, where water boils at a lower temperature, make it 3 minutes. 1 minute down low, 3 minutes up high. That's the current tested guidance, and it's what you follow. A rolling boil means the whole pot is churning, not a few bubbles creeping up the side. And boiling is the one method that handles all three categories at once: the bacteria, the parasites, and the viruses that walk straight through the expensive filter. Then let it cool on its own and keep it covered, because water you just made safe will pick right back up whatever it touches next. Now, the old problem with boiling was never the fire. It was the container. If your pot is a woven basket, a bark box, a wooden bowl, or a hide bag, you can't set it on the coals. The answer, recorded across the continent, was to bring the heat to the water instead. Heat stones in the fire until they're hot through, lift them out with a pair of green sticks, and drop them into the water. Each stone brings a rush of steam and a hard hiss, and 3 or 4 of them in rotation will bring a container to a boil. As they cool, you pull them out and swap in fresh ones. The evidence for this is everywhere, and it's the reason we know it worked. Fire-cracked rock, meaning stone that's split and crazed from repeated heating, is one of the most common finds at old campsites across North America. In Pennsylvania, archaeologists documented heated rocks dropped into hide-lined pits full of water for cooking. And when Cabeza de Vaca crossed the Gulf Coast and the Southwest in the 1500s, he wrote down what he saw, and stone boiling was part of it. He was likely the first European in the Americas to describe it. 2 hard rules on the stones, and these are safety rules, not tradition. Never use rock that came out of a river bottom, and never use anything wet, porous, or layered like slate or shale. Water trapped inside the stone turns to steam in the fire, and the stone can burst and throw pieces at your face. Use dry stone from high ground, granite or quartzite if you know your rocks, and stand back from the fire while they heat. Every year somebody learns this one the loud way. Now, before we put the whole thing together, I owe you the honest limits, because a teacher who only tells you what a method does is only doing half the job. None of this fixes chemistry. If your water has fuel in it, farm runoff, pesticide, road salt, mine drainage, or heavy metals, the sand won't touch it, the moss won't touch it, and the boiling makes it worse rather than better. Boiling removes water as steam and leaves the dissolved material behind, so what's left in the pot is more concentrated than what you started with. If you can smell fuel or chemicals, or you can see an orange stain on the rocks downstream of an old mine, walk away and find different water. There is no wood skill that fixes that one. And I'll say the plain thing once, this is water safety, not medicine. Nothing here treats or cures any condition, and none of it replaces a doctor. So here's the whole thing, start to finish, the way you'd actually do it on a bad day. 1. Pick the least awful water you can reach. Moving beats standing, upstream of the cattle beats downstream, and a seep well dug back from the edge beats dipping straight out of the swamp. 2. Strain it through cloth and let it settle if you've got the time. 3. Run it through the column. Moss, fine sand, charcoal, coarse sand, gravel, moss. Pour the first 2 jars back through. 4. Boil it. 1 minute rolling, 3 minutes above 6,500 feet. 5. Let it cool covered in the cleanest container you've got. 6. Do not skip step 4, because step 3 made it look pretty. And that brings us back around to the $300 filter and the honest answer to which one wins. That filter does one job very well, and it does it in 30 seconds while this method takes you an hour. If the store is open and you have the money and you can carry it, carry it. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But that filter clogs on the exact water we've been talking about all afternoon. It breaks. If it freezes with water in it, it's in your other pack about a third of the time you need it. And by the CDC's own words, it doesn't stop viruses. What you learn today doesn't clog, doesn't break, can't be left at home, costs nothing. And the fire handles the one category the filter surrenders to. On a bad day, a long way from a store, that counts for a great deal. Best of all, they work together. Run swamp water through the charcoal and sand column first, and the store filter you paid for will run faster and last several times longer because you took the mud out before it ever got there. The old way and the new way aren't arguing. The old way is what keeps the new one alive. Which brings me back to those 2 jars I set down at the start. The dark one never lied to you about what it was. The clear one will, right up until it's been over the fire for a full minute. So when you're standing there holding a clear jar and feeling pretty good about yourself, that's your cue to go build the fire. That whole method, from a jar of swamp water to something you can actually drink, is written down the same way in the Native American way, laid out step by step, with nothing in it you have to go by. Now go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera and point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up, give it a tap, and it will take you straight to the book. And if you're watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Now, if you enjoyed this video, you will enjoy the video right now on screen even more. I can assure you on that. Click it right now, my friend.